Hey everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today we got a brand new article from the Hollywood Reporter that has been all over Twitter, all over the internet. It's about Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Maul scenes cut, Luke Skywalker replaced during creative overhaul, and some of this stuff. These are things that I have heard rumors about for the last couple of years now. If you guys remember, way back when the Kenobi show was like first officially announced, and it was like confirmed by Kathleen Kennedy herself on stage that Ewan McGregor was coming back, and then he walked out on stage and all that. She said way back then that the show was ready to go, that everything was written and all this and that. And then, of course, several months later, it was announced that, oh, they're rewriting the show. They scrapped all the scripts, and there was like this huge rewrite. Of course, it's been a couple years since that happened, so, I don't think, they were like crunching or anything to try and get the show done. But, this is kind of covering some of the stuff that we did know about, some of the little rumors that we've, kind of glimpsed over the last couple years. So it is pretty interesting how this all comes together here. So Hollywood Reporter, Darth Maul, a chief antagonist of Obi-Wan Kenobi who first appears in episode 1, is not expected to appear in the series, but sources tell Hollywood Reporter not only was the Sith Lord initially slated to return as a key villain, actor Ray Park was in active prep to reprise Maul. However, however, was before those scenes were scrapped amid a creative overhaul that ultimately saw other antagonists, including Vader, added to the show. Okay, so to be clear, what they're saying here is that Maul was gonna be in it, and then there's a creative overhaul, and only then was Darth Vader added to the show. So Darth Vader was not part of the show when Maul was gonna be the main antagonist. Okay, so here we go. The original writer who worked with Deborah Chow in the 6-episode series, and it was reported that pre-production paused in early 2020 because Lucasfilm was unhappy with the scripts. Yeah, that's what I was referring to. Wow, it's already been a couple years since 2020. Oh my god. The reasoning behind the pause was a little more layered. According to sources, Chow showed the scripts to Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, who were coming off The Mandalorian, freshly launched in November 2019 and deep into work on season 2. Sources note that Filoni and Favreau were concerned that Obi-Wan covering similar ground as Mandalorian, the lone wolf and cub-like story of Kenobi coming out of hiding to protect a child-age Luke Skywalker. Maul was one of the villains who would have participate in the hunt for the pair. Vader was nowhere to be found in this faraway galaxy at this stage, according to those with knowledge of the project. Also, Filoni and Favreau pushed Chow and the show to go bigger, according to several sources. In any case, those concerns made their way to Lucasfilm head Kathleen Kennedy, who pressed the pause button. Joby Harold was eventually hired as the show's new writer. Okay, so a lot of information to take in there. But essentially, the part where they're saying how, the original Obi-Wan show was a little bit too close to essentially what The Mandalorian already is, I heard that way back in the day, a couple years ago. I remember hearing that report that, it was basically going to be Kenobi and a young child, Luke Skywalker, basically running away from whoever's hunting him. Who I guess was gonna be Darth Maul, and somehow that, how that would have, connected to what the events we see in Star Wars Rebels is kind of unclear, because, in Star Wars Rebels, Darth Maul does not know that Kenobi's alive yet. He does not know that he's on Tatooine yet, and he doesn't get a whiff of. He doesn't even get a whiff of Luke Skywalker until his final moments. It was oh, you're protecting someone, and is it the chosen one? It's that's the only time he ever even gets close to figuring out the Luke Skywalker thing. So how this would have worked, this show supposedly, I guess, would have still taken place the same time period in the timeline where it's taking place now. So would they have tried to just overwrite what happened in Rebels? Because you got to remember, that episode of Rebels aired in 2017, which means it was being worked on, I think Pablo Hidalgo said, as early as 2015. So how that would have been possible, I'm not sure. And that is where, we're going to get into this other part in a second, which kind of makes this interesting. But yeah, the other thing though is, aside from the Darth Maul of it all, is that yes, the idea that Favreau and Filoni were like, hey, him, Kenobi with a young Luke is very similar to Mando with a young Grogu, them being on the run from hunters. That's kind of exactly what happened in season 1 of Mandalorian. So I can understand that. I definitely see it. It's like, are we just making the exact same plot? And so Kathleen Kennedy hears of it and she's like, yeah, let's pause it. Let's get a new writer. Let's try and change some stuff up. So here we go. It's unclear how far along in the process things initially unraveled. A boy was chosen to play young Skywalker. I do remember hearing those reports also, that like years ago they had a different Luke Skywalker. I remember hearing those reports. As far as Park's Maul goes, the picture is more cloudy. One source says Park was on set for pre-production and was involved in stunt training. The source says footage of Park may have been shot, although another source says it could have been test footage. Whatever the case, Park was back as Maul, or so he believed. In the overhaul, however, Maul was written out. One source says it was Filoni that conceptually keyed in on a way for Vader to be brought back as the big bad, with the Grand Inquisitor, a character made popular by Filoni in the animated series Star Wars Rebels, also put into the story. Yeah, that's another thing, though, is that you have to remember, I think about a year ago, so I guess it would have been after these events, Dave Filoni was, given essentially a promotion to creative lead, or one of the creative heads of Lucasfilm. So his name, his input was carrying a lot of weight at this time, because this was either right before or right after he got that big promotion. So yeah, the fact that he's probably like, hey guys, I made all this stuff for Star Wars Rebels, it's all here. Obviously we did Twin Suns, so maybe don't use Darth Maul, maybe use the Grand Inquisitors, because I invented these characters for Rebels and they exist now. So there's not a reason to not use them. Okay, let's see. A Lucasfilm source contradicted the account, saying Maul was never intended to return for the series, nor did Park come to set. So they do have at least one source from Lucasfilm. It's interesting that they specifically say this one's from Lucasfilm. That's saying Maul was never coming back. Which, and again, that's the one thing that kind of gives me pause, where I'm like, well, the original story of having Maul come back and do this, how much sense does that really make? Because that Star Wars Rebels episode, and yes, I know that episode takes place years after this show is supposed to happen, but there's a lot of stuff that would have had to, like, Obi-Wan and Darth Maul would have had to have fought on some other planet, and he would have never been able to see Luke Skywalker because he doesn't know about him yet. And there's just like a lot of things that would have had to have not happened in order for any of this to make sense. You know what I mean? Because again, that Rebels episode was being worked on as early as 2015, long before this. So, unless they were going to try to ignore Star Wars Rebels, which even to this day, I still see some people online saying that they should, because they didn't watch Rebels, and they're like, I want to watch Darth Maul live action. Like, no, watch Rebels. You gotta watch Rebels. You do. You just do. Anyways, so back to the thing. The overhaul also led to a new search for a young Luke Skywalker, and a new actor was picked. Hollywood Reporter learned the new Luke is Grant Feely, whose only credit is an episode of Creepshow. So it's like a 10-year-old kid, which that makes sense, right? Like, if production is halted, and essentially what you're doing is you have to wait another year or 2 years or 3 years or whatever, then unfortunately, yeah, like a 10-year-old kid is gonna age, and now you need a new kid to play Luke Skywalker. That's just the reality of the situation. So that kind of sucks, but hey, that's what are you gonna do? You're gonna de-age a child? I don't know. I think they did that for It Chapter 2, which it just came off as weird. Anyways, Maul stands as one of the most popular villains in Star Wars lore, appearing in anime shows as Clone Wars and Rebels, which depicted the final battle between Maul and Kenobi. Park returned to live action for Solo. That suggested there was more for the actor to do in the galaxy far, far away. Solo bombed, scuttling those plans, but soon fans speculated he could appear at Obi-Wan, given that Maul was responsible for the death of Qui-Gon Jinn. The first trailer for Obi-Wan launched on May 9th. Blah, 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 blah. One of the key pieces of the music included Duel of the Fates, which was the Maul-centric lightsaber duel. Yeah. And let's see. Here we go. Updated with Lucasfilm source stating Ray Park did not come to the set of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So that is an update that they added to the article. But yeah, so that is interesting. We do have at least one source contradicting these claims, saying no, he never came to the set. He was never actually going to do anything. So my standing is this. At some point, the initial writing was Darth Maul was going to be the main bad guy. However, I think that those plans were scrapped so early that, you know, maybe Ray Park got a phone call, you know, or maybe he was contacted in some way. Because if, you know, not that this may or may not have anything at all to do with this, but you guys remember Ray Park had, let's just say he had a controversy happen on his Instagram because a certain video came out and it, you know, did that affect this at all? Did that kind of maybe change some of the plans that were going to happen? Because other stuff I remember hearing from, you know, some sources that I trust, I remember hearing at one point or another there was going to be a live action Darth Maul show, and then maybe that show got turned into an animated show instead of a live action show. So there's just a lot of Darth Maul stuff that I feel like in the last several years Darth Maul was going to be used a lot, and then for one reason or another it just hasn't happened yet. It might have to do with Ray Park or any kind of controversy that may or may not have happened. It might have to do with simply that they changed their minds on what they were going to do with Obi-Wan at some point, and then Solo bombed, so there's no Solo sequel to that, and now it's just like this. They wanted to use Darth Maul, but they haven't got the right opportunity yet, maybe. I don't know. Either way, this is pretty interesting to read because, you know, Hollywood Reporter, it's not, you know, these are not like just some random YouTubers who claim to have sources. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a pretty major publication that's, they're not gonna, like, you know, post some tabloid BS, you know, like that. They really did talk to people who really do know things, and they do have some contradicting things being said to them, but, you know, it is what it is. That's the game, you know. So I don't know, pretty interesting stuff here. Overall, I gotta say this, I am happy that Darth Maul is not the main bad guy here, because I feel like, you know, how do you even do that without directly contradicting what happened in Star Wars Rebels? And I don't want that to happen. I want Star Wars Rebels to stay concrete, you know, like that all happened for real, exactly as it was depicted. It all really happened, you know. I want that to stay like super concrete, because it's an amazing show. Plus the fact that you know, that was one of Dave Filoni's babies, you know, the Star Wars Rebels. So it would be super weird for the guy who's like one of the big players in the live action Disney Plus shows, you know, somehow one of his other shows gets contradicted by one of these shows. That doesn't really make any sense, you know. So if nothing else, they made the right decisions here. You know, they added Darth Vader. We got Hayden Christensen coming back now. We're not going to do the exact same lone wolf and cub, like guys traveling around the galaxy with a small child trying to protect them. Like, we have that story. We did that. Mando and Grogu. That's great. You know, we don't need to do that again. We have it. You know, it's working the way we have it. We don't have to copy that. So, you know, as much as a lot of people want to see Darth Maul in live action again, and look, he is great and he is cool, to be honest, I think his best moments have been in animation. You know, like, as cool as Phantom Menace is, I think you can collect all of his moments in Clone Wars and in Rebels, and you have like a much better Darth Maul there than you do in live action ever gave us. I think that's just the truth. So yeah, I don't know. If you want more Darth Maul, you gotta watch Star Wars Rebels. It's awesome. Anyways, yeah, so that's basically the report right now. A lot of, I'm sure the closer we get, we're gonna hear even more Obi-Wan stuff that may or may not have happened. But yeah, pretty interesting. Overall, I'm fine with this. You know, like, shows go through creative rewrites and overhauls and all this. This happens like all the time, actually. You know, so this isn't like some kind of like, oh my god, I can't believe they had to go back and change their mind about things. You know, it's like, no, it's fairly common. You know, sometimes it's more extreme than other times, but I think this was you know, pretty, like, it happened early enough. Not a whole bunch of money was put into it yet, so I think it worked out fine. Pretty cool. Yeah, I'm happy with this. Anyways, let me know what you guys think, and yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.